Okay, it looks like we're back live again. Black Connecticut is back in the building. We're here for part three of debunking the census, particularly the 2020 United States Census, and what that means for Black people living in the state of Connecticut. Again, this is Black Connecticut. This is our very first live. It's part three of our first live. And if you're just now getting acquainted with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at blackct.mag. Our handle is at blackct. I'm sorry, it's at blackctmag at TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you ever want to get a hold of us, reach out to us on social media at blackctmag on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you're feeling unsure about the name, you can actually see it scroll in the bottom at blackctmag, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or you can go to www.blackconnecticut.com and you can subscribe to our email list. So we're going to start telling you when we go live, when we plan on going live. And if you have subscribed to our email list, you'll get those notifications. You'll know in advance. You can get your popcorn, anything that you need to feel comfortable and be prepared because this is our first, but it isn't our last live. And right now we're going through Hurricane Henry. So I understand a lot of people couldn't be here that wanted to be here. Well, good news is you get the playback. We're going to keep it on YouTube. So all of our new fans and all of our new followers can see us on YouTube or could see us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Black CT Mag. So I'm looking in the chat now. Don't see any new faces. However, this is our part three. So we're going to give it a little more time to see if people start coming in because we want to make sure everyone gets to see our new chat since this is part three now. You know, we already did part one. This is part three of our chat. So I want to make sure everybody has the right link. So we're going to go to Facebook here. First, let's go to Instagram and put the link in the bio again. And we're going to go ahead and share it with everybody so they know what's going on. I see we have one new viewer coming back in. Okay, we got the viewers coming in slowly. Hey, it's DeAndrea. Welcome back, DeAndrea. We're back up and we're just letting our followers and our viewers on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok know that we're back. We want to give them the updated link. And again, that updated link I already went ahead and copied, but I know a lot of people don't want to keep going back to the page. And I apologize that this is happening, but Hurricane Henry is not going to stop my shine. I promised you guys a live. Guess what? Black Connecticut is going to give you a live. And we're going to take the time to get to know you because this is our first time actually getting a chance to talk. And while this is our first, it certainly won't be our last. So we appreciate you coming through today. And I know some people probably couldn't because they have terrible internet or, they may have lost power. And that's okay. But next time, you guys are going to catch us. And we can't wait until you actually get to see what we're doing here because we're doing something very different that we've never done before. So I want to make sure that everybody who's Black, who's in Connecticut, that cares about what's going on knows what's going on. So I'm going to give it a minute or two for the new people from Facebook or the new people from Instagram to slide right in. And I know I keep updating the links, but just so you know, this is part three of debunking the census, particularly the United States Connecticut Census, the United States 2020 Connecticut Census. because people are, some people are wondering, well, what about 2019? In 2019, the census was very different. This census is what a lot of people are calling one of the most cultural diverse our country has ever been. So if you're Black, even if you're a person of color, it's important that you understand the Black perspective of what's going on here. And if someone else who's a person of color sees this as a win as well, or if they see these new US 2020 census results as a loss, we really want to get into that with you, but we want to make sure that everyone is here so that everyone can have a voice. And we already got we already added some people from Facebook. We let some people know. I don't know if everyone's online because they might be losing connection. However, I want to get to people on Facebook too and make sure they get the new link. Okay. So everybody in Facebook is going to get the new link. And in a minute or two, we're going to get to part 3. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, follow us at Black CT Mag on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We're working on Twitter soon. If you want us to have a Twitter, let us know. We'll get a Twitter. But we're not sure if you live there, if our audience lives on Twitter. If our audience lives on Twitter, we're going to get one just so we can talk to you. Because we're always in contact with our friends on Facebook, our friends on Instagram. So if you ever just want to talk about what's going on in the Black community in the state of Connecticut, if you want to share something interesting, like a story pertaining to the Black community, or if you have your own thing going on, like you're a business owner, you're a painter, an artiste, a musician, if you're a legend of any sort, such as you broke a record or you made history in the state of Connecticut, we want to know. So if you do, if that is your background, reach out to us at Black CT Mag on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, or you can go to www.blackconnecticut.com and fill out our newsletter so that you can sign up to be on our newsletter, and we'll start sending you emails to let you know when we're going live so that you don't miss us, because I don't want to miss you guys. I want to talk to you. You're what make Connecticut special, and we wouldn't exist if it weren't for you. So we want to make sure that we're doing more lives so that we can connect. And I went ahead and I sent this out to Facebook, and I just want to let them know that this is part 3, because they're probably thinking, again, yeah, this is part 3. And it's interesting because I am hoping people are getting these notifications, or, I hope everything's good. I know some people may have lost electricity, so I'm hoping that that doesn't affect our life here. But the show must go on. So we're going to get into some things real quick. We still got some people in the chat. The show must go on. As we were discussing before, at the end of our part 2, we were talking about the map. Now, the map provided us with a bunch of information pertaining to who is Black or African American alone in the state of Connecticut. I wish I could pull it up to show you, but we were having some technical difficulties with the map. So I'm just going to relay that information over to you. Now, on this map, it showed that in 2019, the Black population was at 10.1%, and now in 2020, the Black population is at 10.8%, which is a 0.07% increase. That is 7%. Is that a win or is that a loss? I'm not 100% familiar on how much the Black community has grown from 2018 to 2019, or from 2017 to 2018. But if anyone else is well versed on that information, especially pertaining to the state of Connecticut, we want to hear what you have to say. If you're in the chat, you can write it in the chat. If you're catching a replay, you can like us, subscribe, and comment. Hit the comment box, and we want to know your feedback on if you know about the census, if you've been following the census, if you just started following it recently, if you just discovered our channel, or if you've been following us on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, and you've just been waiting for this moment to connect, because this is your time. This is our time. And I'm hoping that we can do more of these. So just continuing off with the statistics, again, that was a 7% increase. Now, is that a win or loss? I'm not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and break down the ethnic population or the racial population in the state of Connecticut by county. So this map is going to give me the opportunity to do that. Now, are you ready for this? You haven't seen this on YouTube anywhere else. So this is exclusive.
That's right.
If you live in Connecticut, this is not something other publications are telling you. And I want to make sure you have the facts. It's important to be prepared with the facts. So I want to get into this with you guys right now. So you have the facts, and when it comes time for you to talk about this, you know what you're talking about because you have the data straight from the census.gov website. So again, I'm getting this information from census.gov. And census.gov is going slow. Right now, it is only showing me the white alone population. And what I'm looking to see is Black or African American alone. Now, it should be able to let me highlight the state. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the state. So this information is going to be exclusive to the state of Connecticut. Are you ready for this? Okay, so there is a total of 10.8, as we mentioned, percent of Black people or African American people living in the state of Connecticut. All right, Deandra D says, facts. We need to know what's going on. We do. And whatever I know, I'm going to share with you right now in this chat today.
That's right.
So you don't got to be walking around in the streets with people asking
Are you dumb?
you know? So Litchfield County. Are you guys ready to hear the information of Litchfield County? It's loading right now. Litchfield County has a total of 1.8% Black or African American alone people in their county. And just for reference, white alone is 85.7% in Litchfield County. Two or more races is 7%, 7.0. Black is pretty much, or Black or African American, is pretty much one of the lowest. So I don't want to compare them to every single one because we'll be here all night. So what I'll do, just for kicks and giggles, is we're going to compare the Black population to the mixed population, or the population that consists of two or more races per each county. So again, the state of Connecticut alone has 10.8% Black people or people who identify as African American. And Harford County has 14.1% Black or African American people in their county. In comparison to those who identify as two or more races, it's 8.9%. So 8.9%, or 80,373 people in Hartford identify as two or more races. Tolling County, which I honestly don't know what's there, but it's here. It's in Connecticut, so we're going to embrace it for today. This population in Tolan County is 3.6% Black or African American alone. That's 5,450 people. And in comparison, their two or more races category has 6.2% or 9,221 individuals who identify as mixed race in the state of Connecticut, particularly in Tolan County. Windham County, Connecticut has a total Black population of 2.1%. That's 2,403 people in that county that identify as Black or African American. And in comparison, 8.2% or 9,546% of individuals who live in Windham County, Connecticut, identify as two or more races. So as you can see, that's about 3 times the size of the Black population. Now, New London County, which is very interesting, it has a total of 6% of Black or African American individuals in this county. That's 16,026 individuals who identify as Black or African American. In comparison, 9% of these people on the census identify as two or more races. That's 9%. Again, the Black community or African American was 6.0. Two or more races is 9.0, which is at 24,214%. We have a couple more left. Middlesex County, Connecticut is 5.2% Black or African American. That's 8,565 individuals in Middlesex County who identify as Black or African American. And that's in comparison to 6.9% or 11,347% of individuals who identify as two or more races. Now, New Haven County has a population of 13.8% of individuals who identify as Black or African American alone. In comparison, 9.5% of individuals identified as two or more races in New Haven County. That's 82,363 people. And that's in comparison to the Black or African American alone population, which is at 13.8% or 118,933. Our very last county is Fairfield County, and 11.2% of individuals in Fairfield County identify as Black or African American alone. That's 106,756 people living in Fairfield County that identify as Black. In comparison, 10.7% of people identify as two or more races. Now that's 102,835 people, and that consists of the entire comparison. And again, all this data comes from census.gov. I got it straight from the source, census.gov. And it's very interesting when you put it in that perspective because based on the data, we can say that people in Connecticut, possibly in the entire country, overwhelmingly identify as two or more races. And we talked about where we grew as a community because we were 10.1% in 2019, and now we are 10.8% Black or African American in the state of Connecticut. So we talked about how we grew, and now we want to get into one of our final figures, which is how we also declined. Now, I want you to pay very, very close attention to the areas that we're doing well in and the areas that we could probably use some work in. Now, before we continue, I see D says Fairfield County numbers are comparable between the blacks and two or more races. Great point. In fact, black people who identify as black or African American alone in Bridgeport County, I'm sorry, Fairfield County, did overwhelmingly surpass the two or more race category. I believe it was about in the nines for two or more races, and it was about 10 or 11 for Black or African American alone. So that is something to consider that um, Fairfield County, which has Fairfield, Bridgeport, I believe Stratford, correct me if I'm wrong, if Fairfield County also consists of Stratford and several other places like Greenwich, which has one of the most expensive real estates in the state, and Stamford, Connecticut, the city that works. Can't forget Danbury, Connecticut as well, which has a growing black population. Didn't want to forget Danbury because I know we have a couple of followers here from Danbury, and even though that isn't a typical um, black city, the population is growing. So shout out to Danbury, Connecticut if we have Danbury in the chat. Now, last but not least, we want to get into the decline. So while we were growing in terms of, say, adults or older people, when you look at statistics like this one, now this information comes directly from bookings.edu. And this information is people who filled out the census from 2010 to 2020 that are under age 18 and have identified themselves. Now, this is a little eye opening, so I want you to be paying close attention because I don't want you to miss this. This is going to get real good. Okay, DeAndrea's chiming in on Fairfield County. Okay, I forgot Trumbull. Shout out to Trumbull if anyone's living in Trumbull. We appreciate you following Black Connecticut. And we want to hear more about the Black community in Trumbull or in a lot of other underrepresented cities and towns in Fairfield County in general. Not just Fairfield County, other counties too. If you're black and you live in a place like Torrington, shout out to Torrington, we want to hear from you. We don't want you to feel like embarrassed because you're probably one of 20 people. We want to know your story. You might be one of 200 people. We don't know, but we won't know if you don't share it with us. And we encourage you to share your story. If you want to go to www.blackconnecticut.com, you could share your story. And we'll be in contact about that if that's something that you're interested in. But for now, let's get into these statistics of individuals under 18 years old who identified their racial and ethnic group on the census. And this is the data from 2010 to 2020. Now, as you can see in the lead is two or more races at 2,127,615 individuals. Next is Latino or Hispanic. And side note about Latino or Hispanic, it is not regarding your race. You can be black, you can be white, you can be Asian American, you can be mixed or mestizo, or you can be Native American and identify as Latino or Hispanic. It is your culture. So prior to all the other information that we saw, we didn't see Latino or Hispanic, but now we're going to get into that a little bit more. So, the fastest growing group in the United States from 2010 to 2020 is the two or more race category. And as we discussed in part one and part two, maybe a little bit of part three, someone like Cassie or Barack might identify as two or more races, or they might identify as Asian American or maybe even Latino or Hispanic. I mean, and there is a slight chance that they may identify as other races or black. However, the data shows that the country overwhelmingly identifies, and I want to clarify this is not the state of Connecticut. These stats are from the US Census regarding the US population in general. So this is a representation of the United States in general. We did just see the Connecticut stats, and we saw that two or more races also overwhelmingly outnumbered the Black community. We didn't get a figure on Latino or Hispanic in those instances. However, now we can get a full glimpse. Two or more races is 2,127,615 individuals. Latino or Hispanic is 1,626,361 individuals in the United States of America. Asian American accounts for 728,850. Other races, which can be something in this case like Native American, 289,463. And the last growing minority group from 2010 to 2020 is American Indian and Alaskan Native. Oh, it actually looks like it's Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders at 34,872. Now, this is where things get on the decline. And before we get into that, Andrea says, it seems like more people are starting to identify with two or more races. That could be why we're seeing an increase. Okay, you bring up a good point, and I wonder why that is. If I did not cover this from part one or part two, in part three, I'm going to cover this and tell you that um, the two or more races category did not exist on the census until 2010. So 2010 to 2020 is one of the first times that the two or more races category appeared. So this is the first batch of information that we've ever received from the census that includes two or more races. And as of year 2000, the Latino or Hispanic category emerged. Prior to year 2000, Latino or Hispanic category did not exist in the census. And that's something to keep in mind as you're looking at older records of the census or as you're digging into the new data that we just received. Now we're going to get on the decline. So after the Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders at 34,872, things start to decline. American Indians and Alaskan Natives have declined by 57,215. I'm going to repeat that once more. American Indians and Alaskan Natives have declined by anyone who is listening to the replay and may be familiar or may be interested in the census. Um, do you know anyone, particularly in the state of Connecticut, who identifies as an American Indian or Alaskan Native? If you know someone like a friend or a neighbor or even a classmate who identifies as American Indian or Alaskan Native, which is one of the three racial categories that declined on the census from 2010 to 2020, I want you to write a 1 in the chat. If you've never, ever met someone in Connecticut or even in the United States who is an American Indian or Alaskan Native, then I want you to put a 0 in the chat. So, again, if you've encountered an American Indian or Alaskan Native in Connecticut or the US, put a 1. If you have not, put the number 2 in the chat. It'll be interesting to learn because even in the comment section, if you're watching the replay, I want you to comment and put the number 1 if you've encountered an American Indian or Alaskan Native, or put a number 2 if you have not. I'm sorry, a number 0 if you have not. And it'll be interesting to get that information. Okay, DeAndrea says, actually, as often as I see that on forms, I've never met one. So she put a 0. Okay, so DeAndrea has not seen or encountered anyone in Connecticut or anyone in the United States that identifies as an American Indian or Alaskan Native. Um, I can give you a little bit of insight. Some may not be consider themselves American Indian or Alaskan Native. They may consider themselves, or another term that they are called is, um, those are people from Alaska. I'm not sure if it's a derogatory term. Please tell us in the chat if it is, but Inuit is another way to describe this group of people. That may be how they primarily identify as an Inuit. Please correct us if we're wrong. Again, we want to make sure that information is on point because we're always trying to bring you the facts. But that's one of the largest groups under 18 in the United States that has declined. Now, the second largest group that has declined is the Black or African American population. And the Black or African American population under age 18 from 2010 to 2020 has declined by 687,925. So again, the Black communities, young children, ages 18 and under, or maybe this doesn't include 18 because it says under age 18. So under 18, like 17, 16, has declined by 787,925. And what's interesting about this is, are these children able to identify themselves or are the parents identifying them? So that's one thing I'd love to know is how did they get this data? But last but not least, here's the white population, obviously coming in at the most. Again, white people in Connecticut outnumber Black people significantly. There's about 70% of the state of Connecticut is white. So this is why places like Black Connecticut is so important because we want people to know that we live here. We want people to know that Black people exist. And this is why the stats are also important because if our stats are not growing, how are we going to let people know that we're actually here? All of the races or the identities that are growing, those are going to be the populations that will be represented more because there's more of them. That's how the census works. And DeAndrea chimes in and says, the Black community is dwindling. That's close to 1 million in decline. You're absolutely right. If you round that up, 687,925 is more than a half a million. So if we continue to dwindle in our population of 18 and under, we're not going to get far. Like, have you ever heard the song, I believe the children are our future? Okay, if the children are really our future, what does the Black community's future look like if under 18 is declining and it's one of the three largest groups that are declining? Our future is not looking all that great. Or do you feel like it's like an instance of, say, maybe there are Black parents? Um, as we mentioned earlier, we did have a troll come into our Instagram page, and that's at Black CT Mag. I'm sorry, I believe that was our Facebook page. And this troll came on our Facebook page, and he told us that um, we shouldn't be ducking the census man, and that's why we're complaining. So, he feels like it's a case of, okay, DeAndrea says the numbers for the white community is declining as well. Exactly. And that's why we were looking at him like, is he crazy? Like, the numbers are declining the most for the white community. However, the advantage that the white community has is that there are already more of them. There are less of the Black community, which is why Black people are called a minority. And now, with these stats, it's obvious we're a minority within a minority now. Our children are a minority within a minority. Okay, D says, but they are the majority, so the comparison is non existent. Exactly. You already know. Now you get it. Some people celebrate this as a win for Black people or people of color, but if you really look at Black people's situation in this instance, we're not growing half as much as all the other populations are. So that's something to think about. And last but not least, the white community is the largest declining community from the census 2010 to 2020, ages 17, 16, and down, under the age of 18. And this rate is at 5,137,488. So the white community under age 18 from 2010 to 2020 has declined by 5,137,488 people or children. And that's something interesting to think about. But if you look at Black people and their age group under 18, we're not too far from declining just as often and just as rapidly. So it's something to think about. Now, we want to get back to the regular chat and see if anybody wants to talk about all of the information that we just heard today. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like, okay, do you feel like this information is false, or do you feel like Black people may be overwhelmingly contributing to the two or more race category, which is causing the decline? Or do you feel like it's a simple case of, these children being Black and taking the census and just
No, no,
saying,
no. I know black.
it's possible, but if that is the case, then why is it the case? Because again, there are a lot of people, even prior to 2010, before they introduced the mixed race category in the census in 2010, a lot of people who are now making up this overwhelmingly large number of two or more races, they were
I'm black.
saying, so is it that they are, or is it that now that there is a category that aligns a little better with how they would like to identify themselves? That is where we're seeing this huge spike. And this can also apply to, say, the Latino or the Hispanic community. What if, again, prior to 2000 and prior to year 2000, the term Latino or Hispanic did not exist on the census. So, do you feel like prior to a category that they felt fit them best, do you think it was
I'm
more
black.
like, do you feel, or I mean, even better, do you feel like some people are still
I'm black.
saying, but once it gets time to get to the census, they're
No,
checking
no,
off?
no. I know black.
It's something to think about because it is very interesting. So, I'm going to give you guys the time to think about it, but even better, I want to give you a survey. And this survey, I want you to let us know exactly what you think based on the information we provided. Now, give us 1 minute. We're getting this survey set up for you right now. And we want you to think about it. Now, as you can see in the chat, our poll just opened up, and here are the instructions. I'm going to show the poll, and if for some reason you can't see the poll, um, just let us know. Give it some time to load, and as it's loading, here's what it says. It says, what do you think the rate of Black children, why do you think the rate of Black children is declining? I'm going to read that one more time. Why do you think the rate of Black children is declining? And if you feel like it's option number one, the team no kids mentality, I want you to write number 4 in the chat. Okay, DeAndrea says, it seems as if more people are electing to identify as mixed race. But the question we should be asking is, does being a Latino mean you cannot be black? Great question. As I just briefly covered prior, Latinos is regardless of your race. You can be black, which is an Afro Latino. You can be white. You can be mestizo or mixed, or you can be Native American, or you can even be Asian American and identify as Latino. So it's very difficult to grasp how those numbers are comparing to something like a racial background versus a culture. We all have a culture, but we're all not given the opportunity to check it off on the census and opt out of race. So it is something interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. However, this particular survey has less to do with um, being a Latino and more about what is going on with the Black community's under 18 rate. Why is it declining? What do you think it's declining for? So, the answer number one is Team No Kids mentality. Hashtag Team No Kids. I know you guys have seen that online sometimes. A lot of older people and some younger people are bragging about not having children. And they see it as a flex. So, do you feel like that mentality, Team No Kids, is what's contributing to the Black children declining? If you do, just put the number sign and the letter one. If you believe, okay, if you believe in one of the reasons being the mixed kids fetishization, then, and again, I just want to highlight what mixed kid fetishization is. And we all have heard the term fetish, so it is kind of rampant in the Black community on occasions where Black people in Black spaces they glorify children who are one or more race or who appear to have a variety of different looks with lighter skin, like green eyes, or a different color eye, like a blue eye, something closer to the European spectrum of beauty. And Mixed kid fetishization is an option. So if you feel like Black children are declining because a lot of Black people want to have mixed babies and they don't want to contribute to the Black community, like Kodak Black, who says he doesn't want a Black bee because he's already Black. If you feel like it's that type of mentality where it's like, where the snow bunnies at, or where the yellow bones at, or Hmm. DeAndrea says, I'm tied between number one and two. Don't make your choice just yet because we do have a couple more options. One is racial disparities in healthcare. So, do you feel like racial disparities in healthcare are part of the issue? And racial disparities in healthcare mean like anything from you feel like Black women are not having enough children because they're scared of if they may lose their lives during labor, because hospitals and medical communities have these negative stigmas about Black women? Or do you feel like a lot of Black women don't want to have children because they don't have health insurance, or they are low income and can't afford life insurance? That would be a reason that you would choose something like number three, racial disparities in healthcare. And if you want to choose number three, you would just put the number three. Now, I'm curious to know, those who are watching the replay, I want you to vote too, because then we'll be able to see in the comments how Black people really feel and why they believe the rate of Black children is declining. So go ahead and vote, and we're going to take this information and we may reveal it on our website, which is coming soon, www.blackconnecticut.com, or we may review the results on Twitter, which is coming soon, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, which we already have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And you can find us at Black CT mag. I appreciate everybody coming today, and